Let's go into game 2 and see exactly how these guys are going to work this through, because Rival, well, they're going to be first pick this time round, and maybe we'll see them go for the rot this time.
More than likely, we could see a lot of aggression from Rival yet again. Now, with them having the first pick, it's going to be them controlling the pace of this picks and bans and see whether or not they... Well, they banned out the Guan. I was going to say whether or not they leave the Guan Yu open or not, but electing that, even though they were successful with it last game, they just want to take it away and go with a different strategy, not revealing too much in their side.
Guan Yu, Scylla, and back to Rival one more time. We saw the Raijin ban and the Kuang ban with the other two, I believe I saw there as well. But no, it's going to be Rival taking out Ratatoskis. So they're not going to play it themselves. They're also not going to play the Guan Yu themselves. They're giving themselves a different option, potentially for the mid lane, I'd say.
Kuang is open potentially for Rival if they wanted to go ahead and pick this up.
And both those were banned last time round, Raijin and Kuang. So Rival have the option for the Kuang now, with Raijin being banned out by exceL. Will they look to take it early, though? Is it really risky to take an Kuang this early?
Not necessarily. You do so much damage late game, and the way Rival have been playing it, as long as they keep playing together, but going to go for a little bit more mobility instead of the damage late game from the Susano.
So talk to me about Susano against Kuang and just in general. And those two, we've seen, obviously, Kuang very, very strong late game, but Susano good at most stages of the game with lots of mobility and a way to like distract the opposition.
The main difference is the ability for the playmaking out of Susano. He has the pull, and he also has the knockup with his ultimate, and a decent amount of damage with his first ability, and just a crazy amount of mobility with his Jetstream and his passive. So that it makes it very favorable to kind of, especially in the jungle position where you have speed buff, but it's going to be the Kuang and the Susano.
Who do you want to see solo out, those two?
It depends on the matchup, I would say, more than anything else.
That's a good point. They can flex pick that now. They can have Susano, or they can run the Kuang in the solo lane. Potentially, I'd say Kuang if they go for a Guardian, just because Vanguard only works against minions. It's not going to work against magical damage that Kuang can put out there. Neith locked in for Rival definitely states to me that it's going to be a solo Susano or Kuang here.
It's going to be the Cabrakan, looks like, from exceL into the solo lane. So you could put Susano there just to find the pull, always out of the Tremor, which would stop the clear coming out of Cabrakan. On top of that, you would be able to out-clear him using your first ability.
Or would you want to put Kuang there? Because Kuang could technically fight when he's using the Tremors and just beat him up over and over again. Probably not as easy as a Susano, I suspect. Caravan's coming through, Athena and Giannis take it off the table. Rival do not want to deal with that. I mean, with that Giannis ban, we saw Rival play that last time out. Maybe this is a mid lane Kuang or Susano.
That would be very aggressive to have those two melee characters together roaming around the early game. But you would have red buff Kuang with a speed buff on Susano, so there's a lot of playmaking opportunity, especially with Susano being in the front. Kuang can easily follow up off of that. That would be very cheeky.
Very cheeky indeed. Hou-Yi gets through though, and exceL will pick that one up to combine with Bacchus in the support role. Final pick they require will be a mage for the mid lane. As Rival, well, they're going to round out their comp with something. I'm expecting a Guardian of some type, or at least a Warrior, to try and beef up this front line a little bit.
I like the Cabrakan pick, trying to deal with the Susano. Obviously, you cannot use your Jetstream over walls, so that would prevent Susano from trying to find that easy escape, and then potentially with the Hou-Yi follow-up, the Suns on top of that ultimate, that could be an easy pick-off for exceL, and that's something that they could be potentially leaning on.
So a nice little balance here of magical and physical damage coming out from Rival. Although they've only really got one official frontline god in that Ares here, they're going to have to rely on a lot of in and out from the Susano and Kuang to really set themselves up. But I think after seeing that last game, I think they'd be very confident going with a lineup like this.
It's going to be very easy in the duel lane, having this aggression with Ares and the Neith. As long as Susano is the one making these rotations, it looks like so it's going to be Soul middle. So between Kuang and Susano, more than likely one of those, I would guess it would be Susano in the solo lane trying to disrupt Cabrakan.
Ares jungle, Susano support, Kuang solo. Yeah. We gonna see it?
That would be
you don't like
in a different dimension.
A different dimension. Well, it is Europe, and it is console, so let's find out. It's actually going to be Zenborne on the Ares once more, and it will be Gnome, solo lane Susano, who's going for the Bluestone start this time round, up against Kaajee on the Cabrakan, and this lane shouldn't be that easy for Gnome early on against the Cabrakan, who has a lot of burst potential. If he goes power pot start, which it looks like he has here, Kaajee, he could find kill potential on the Susano early. There's not a whole lot he can answer back with.
It's going to be very interesting because if Gnome can find the pull and hit the melee minions at the same time and then use his first ability just to easily clear the wave, there's not really much that Kaajee can do in response. He's going to be utilizing a lot of mana early game, and Susano doesn't really need that much mana with Bluestone. His abilities will clear very quickly.
Now, he did take Purification here at the beginning of the game as well. No teleport online for Susano, so there's an opportunity here for exceL to recognize that and potentially pressure this solo laner over and over again, especially when you've got Fudge in the jungle on Thor. They could just look to camp this solo laner and force him behind.
I like the idea behind the Purification to be defensive, but there's going to be an invade coming out of exceL, trying to get Rival away from this speed buff. Looking at the relics, there is no Wrath available, but using their abilities now, they can't really contest.
This is a great start.
So just going to give it up.
Really important for exceL to do this, and you can see the Rival just have to give up their own jungle here. There's nothing they can do. Blue buff, though, wasn't taken by exceL there. They chose not to go for the blue buff. They could have very well done that themselves if they wanted to, and instead they're giving Rival a way back into this, potentially, after that small invade.
Had they tried to go for the blue buff and use their abilities, easily Rival could capitalize on that by just trying to find the early kills before the blue buff does drop. So now with that little lead, exceL are trying to position themselves around the Fire Giant. So it's going to be a double hunter into the mid lane. It's Hui versus this Neith.
Yeah, Hui versus Neith going to be very interesting. Over in the duo lane, you can see it's Anhur up against, who else is that? It's Sol, isn't it, in that duo lane? It's going to be very crazy between those two. Sort of a classic old one with Bacchus and Anhur together. And Sol, well, the wave clear is going to be definitely in favor of her to begin with.
But Ares is playing a little bit more back, not wanting to take any damage coming out of this Bacchus Anhur combination. So just with that, Rawski's waiting for the potential to belly flop, but he knows that if he tries that, the Ares is waiting very patiently to find the chains afterwards.
Well, while all that was going on, the right-hand Fire Imps did go the way of exceL. Left-hand Harpies went the way of Rival, and the right-hand Harpies went the way of exceL. So exceL still have a bit of a lead here, although they're down on gold at the moment a little bit, but they do still have their own speed and blue buff in the jungle to go and take.
And with that, just a little bit more aggression into the dual lane. Popping the shell is Rival, knowing that there's about to take a lot of damage.
He does take a lot of poke, but gets away quite nicely. I love the work coming out from Headhunter there to just throw out poke, knowing he wasn't the focus in that engagement whatsoever, and actually eat a lot of the poke that was coming out from those Archer minions that was looking towards Zenborne.
Looking at exceL, the Bacchus has Purification, which is very surprising out of the dual lane. It's mostly to deal with this Kuang, making sure he would not get executed, which is a good idea.
Also the Ares as well. I mean, the Ares no escape into an Kuang pull could be a potential setup for him. So at least he can escape one of those and not put himself in an awkward position, especially if his belly flop is on cooldown. But not having, you know, a defensive option, we'll probably see him invest into that a little bit later on.
It's going to hurt Rival's potential initiation. There's a lot of strategies where some teams will try to focus to support, and now that one little relic is going to make it very less tempting for Rival to attempt that strategy. Now, Rapio, level 4, trying to find the gank. He might hit level 5 off of this wave, and then could potentially find the execute.
And the Will Weaver coming through as well, and the knock-up is good from the ultimate coming out as well. Into the sky he goes. Dragon picks up the first kill of the game. Rapio on the board once again.
Kaajee not having the Purification similar to the Bacchus, electing to go for the teleport for the mobility instead, paying with his life, and first blood going the way of Rapio. And that's a guy you don't want to necessarily give first blood, a jungle Kuang.
We saw how fast he got off the mark last game as well on the Fenrir and just managed to snowball the team from there. And now, well, he's going to go the same sort of way at the moment. A little bit difficult to gank that Hoyi mid lane for the time being, but the Will Weaver combining from mid lane just set up that so nicely for that pick on Kaajee.
Just looking at the builds real quickly, between the mid laners, there's a little bit of a different style. Picking up the throwing dagger for the Hui, whereas the Neith went for more of the little bit of aggressive early start. Bluestone Red Pot on her side, allowing her to try to control the early laning phase, despite not having the AoE splash. If your two abilities clear the wave instantly, then you can start poking away.
Well, on the right side there, you did see for the first time this game, Rapio picking up his speed buff, managed to secure that for himself. His Headhunter combining with Zenborne here. Flop just off the mark from Rawski, but the Belch will connect, however. No real follow-up from either team, though, just generally poking each other out in the duo as to be expected.
There's really not much left to be taken except the red buffs and the blue buff on the side of Rival, and that's exactly where they're heading to. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, there could be potential gank as the Thor is coming around the corner.
This is really nice work from Atonement there. A lot of poke pressure, but he got stunned inside the flames. Not enough for a kill. In the sky, however, was Fudge, and that's a lack of respect from Atonement to recognize that and stayed just a little bit too long looking for extra pressure.
We talk about why exceL struggles a little bit after their picks. Right there, Fudge could have potentially started up the red buff, but instead, the dual lane is just at a standstill, and in response, Rival go into the jungle, scare away Fudge, and there's no capitalization. There could have been an easy collapse in there.
I agree with that. You see Fudge actually go for the gank, pick up the kill. The left-hand Harpies were available as well. Instead, he went to his own red buff first. Instead of looking for the red or the left-hand Harpies, they could have been down already. They could have saved their own red for a safer time to share experience too.
So they're able to still find those little kill opportunities, but there's PvP and there's also PvE, so you have to be good at both in order to win games of Smite, and that's something that currently exceL's a little bit behind in.
What was it you were saying? ABC, right?
Always be clearing.
Always be clearing. If you don't clear after the ganks, you're not going to find anything extra for yourself that you really need at this high level of play. Rapio going to go into the jungle here. Speed buff is available here. That's a nice triple ricochet that hit onto him there. I don't think he expected the third shot to hit, but it did. If he all three would have hit, he definitely would have been a dead Ao Kuang.
And that's an early game Hui that doesn't have many items online. Currently not maxed out on his ricochet either. So imagine that being a little bit higher level. That would be more than half of his health pool. So just a little bit of an example of what could happen later on.
Hey, if you're a good pool player, you can play Ho Yi as well. It's been confirmed. Ask Mate Yankee, he knows all about it. 1-1, 5.5 minutes in. And so far, it's a little bit better from exceL with that early invade coming out. It's slowed down Rival on the start they had previous game. But Rival answered back with the first blood, and exceL, well, they've evened things out once more, but they're still behind on gold.
Unfortunately, Rival still ahead despite losing their speed buff, and it's up to exceL to really find the playmaking opportunities. They have a very aggressive strategy trying to go for this Gold Fury, but it is going to get spotted out as Neith comes around the corner.
A lot of secure with those flames coming down as well, and Atonement's going to try and steal one away, but it won't be happen, and Atonement will force them to lose a member of their team in Rawski as well. Will Weaver being fired as well, as it looks like Zenborne was trying to look for some pressure elsewhere. It's actually for Drizzle now. Headhunter going to try and chase down this kill and pick up the kill if he can find it. Nope, in hand's just out of range.
Neith not electing to use the ultimate, or not doing enough damage rather, as the ultimate was used. Anhur barely escapes with his life, and now Soul is going to be able to push this lane as a Thor backs as well. Meanwhile, in the solo lane, a lot of trade happening, Tremors being used, but Gnome nowhere near. The mobility from Gnome should be able to catch up to Kaajee here.
Those archers did a lot of damage in that engagement, which you wouldn't have expected so far. Now under the tower comes Rapio, looking for the pick up of the illusion to close the gap. Finds the dragons, and the dragons connect for another kill. 3-1. Kaajee punished.
So clean of an engage. The water illusion was used to cut the distance, and then capitalizing, throwing the dragons, connecting onto Kaajee. Didn't even have to commit with the ultimate either, just holding on. But meanwhile, on the dual lane side of things, Fudge waiting for this to separate to expire.
Good, well played. The wall comes out. Not the right side he would have liked it, though, as Berserker Barrage connects too. Flop off the mark as the belch comes down, but three members committing them from exceL. They're still unable to pick up the kill.
Just like you mentioned, it unfortunately was the wrong side of the Thor wall. Had it been on the other side, Soul could have been potentially body blocked by that fat Bacchus, not allowing Soul to escape, and that could have been an easy kill for exceL.
Pressure in mid lane from Rapio here. Going to get a double tap for free and has to illusion away. But remember, when he's stealthed and he's got the mark of the crow, he can still be seen. But Kaajee, however, punishes Gnome for his indiscretions of staying around a little bit too long after that gank and answers back saying, listen, you may have got the kill, but it wasn't you that did it. It was me.
Finding the early return kill is very important in the solo lane. That could be something that exceL can try to exploit by invading the blue and speed buff afterwards, but instead electing to pick up his own blue buff. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, no escape.
The Suns are down, and now Zenborne's in trouble. Slowed down by the mark of the crow, and the belly flop is even better. Fudge with the dunk to cut off the option. The Berserker Barrage picks up the kill. 3-3.
So with that pick, exceL really needs to capitalize off of this. Their left side mid Harpies is available, and that's what they're leading on, but I would like to see them try to invade some buffs instead.
Oh, Atonement did manage to steal one of those away as well. And you can see that even though exceL is finding the answers and finding the Gold Fury as well, they're still behind on gold at the moment, just about 300 gold difference.
Just ever so slightly. They did cut the experience gap lead off of that Gold Fury, which is also really important. So slowly and surely, they're itching their way back into this game, but yet again, we still need to see them start doing some invades after these very important picks.
So Gnome on the Susano solo lane here. Started Bluestone into Warrior Tabby, and now looks like he's going towards the Hide of the Urchin as well here, just to get those extra tanky stats on. So just relying on base stats here on this assassin more often than not to be a frontline nuisance.
What you're trying to do in this position is bait out Kaajee, and in this position, unfortunately, there's not much mana on the side of Rapio. But meanwhile, Kaajee doesn't have much mana either, so this could be potential loop. If they wanted to, they could have looped around and find another kill.
Blue buff picked up by Gnome there. Fire Elementals have spawned for the last time here, as they should despawn at 10 minutes as per usual. And everybody's going to go back to farming. Zenborne 0-1-1 as the floppy mid lane did connect with Atonement there, but a good purification will keep him alive. And in the end there, the weave didn't really help out with the unravel, as Zenborne returns a bit of poke onto Rawski.
It was a very beautifully timed purification right before the belly flop connects, because had that belly flop connected, you would have stayed in place. Purification would not make you move forward, and from there, exceL could have potentially capitalized with their positioning and follow up a lot of damage.
A potential gang going on here as well. Weaver being channeled here by Atonement. I'm not sure why they're looking for maybe Kaajee on the right, but he just recalled in time to safety. Nobody else on the map really under any sort of pressure here. Atonement back in time for the wave though, as per usual. And you can see Rawski's ward there, just trying to give vision of where these rotations are going.
And with all the buffs currently being down, Rival coming up at the 10-minute mark, just ever so slightly ahead, about 800 gold. Not much to write about, but they did lose a gold fury, and they're still up ahead. So this is very favoring them currently. With Drizzi backing level 11 compared to Soul level 12, they can maybe look for a play aggressively. They do have some decent vision control around the gold fury side if they wanted to exploit that.
Yeah, there is a little bit of an opportunity here. Rapio, though, in the jungle, trying to camp Kaajee a little bit more. Gnome did connect that Siphon there onto him, looking for the extra damage, the jet stream, sorry, I should say. Looking to try and slow him down, but Kaajee now commits, Tremors on cooldown, and this is an opportunity for Rapio to go in with Atonement as well, with the Will Weaver coming out. The Dragon is unleashed, and Rapio picks up another kill with, once again, just a simple rotation over. Fudge is in the sky, though, on the Thor, and he's going to come in.
And with that, Rapio going to come landing back down. The hammer was used. The stun connects onto Gnome. Going to pull him back in. And with that, Rapio trying to do a little bit of damage. Doesn't necessarily want to commit to a kill, because as long as he can force Rapio to go back, Fudge to go back to base, then Rapio can find the farm necessary. And he's currently up 3 levels, and now Thor has to go back.
And Rival using them on advantage in the swing round there as well from Bacchus. Rawski having to go and defend the right-hand tower. They tried to pressure the tier 1 tower in mid lane. The Gold Fury, however, has just spawned, and Rival should recognize that now as well. Hoyi forced back is on the left-hand side. Drizzle, well, he's just going to sit here and have to wait for the moment for teammates, because he's very low on health.
There's not much mana on the side of Hatters as well, so it's going to be very easy for Rival to find a potential red buff invade. Zenborne taking a little bit of damage in response, but with that push, should save him.
Very, very good poke coming out from Drizzle there. Tries to defend the red buff as well. Doesn't manage to do so, however. There's a Gold Fury now under pressure from Gnome and Atonement, who are taking it in turns to tank this one up. Headhunter there with Rapio turns up as well. Fudge is around the corner, but he doesn't recognize it just yet, as now Anhur with the Desert Fury comes through and doesn't manage to steal that one away. It goes the way of Rival. Gnome does fall down to Kaajee, though, and this could be a bad fight for Rival.
In the back line, Drizzi trying to find the jump, and it looked like Zenborne is going to fall once Rawski does find the belly flop. Fudge in a lot of trouble to Rapio in response. So far, it's been a 2-for-nothing exchange, but Fudge going to fall, so it's going to be 2-for-1 and a Gold Fury on the side of Rival, right? As their chase still continues, Kuang nowhere for him to go.
He will go down, and Headhunter with Atonement trying to help out the team as well. Going to try and slow them down a little bit. The backflip should give an opportunity for the Spirit Arrow if required. And Rival, well, it was a messy fight there, but it was a 3-for-1 engagement, as that ricochet was on point coming out there from Hatters in the mid lane. And Atonement should fall down because of the pillar as well. 5-7, and exceL, well, they're starting to win this one.
What a beautiful pillar, not allowing the Neith anywhere to go, but they need to capitalize off of this. It was a 4-for-1, but they're not going to push this mid wave, as Headhunter did clear out the wave, and there's no buff invades as well. Yeah. The speed and the blue are up for Rival, but instead exceL are going for the left side mids.
Speed buff, red buff, a blue buff, back harpies, both sets of mid harpies were available as well, and all they managed to get out of that was the left-hand harpies on the way of the disengage. They could have, like you said, this is the one thing I'm seeing from exceL already after not watching them since week 1. Is that, yeah, they're just not capitalizing on extra things afterwards when they win these engagements.
They had a 4-man advantage, and they just didn't utilize it effectively enough. Like, sure, you don't have a mid-wave, so obviously you don't want to dive and commit to that tier mid tower, but these little objectives are so easy to be plucked away from Rival.
Especially as a 5-man unit as well. You could rotate around if you're a bit worried about being ganked or low in health, rotate as a 5-man and find it. In the end, though, Rival, they're going to get their own speed, and now they're on blue on the right-hand side, so just limit the losses from that last engagement, which was kind of scrappy and messy from Rival, to be fair. They all collapsed in the Gold Fury. Nobody really zoned anybody out, and then in the end, well, exceL managed to find a lot of free picks from that.
They didn't have the sustain compared to last game by not having the Guan Yu, so they took a little bit of poke from the Gold Fury. Gnome trying to find the jet stream, not able to connect with the rotation from Hatters. It's going to be a very aggressive rotation out of Rival, trying to cut him off maybe.
Oh, maybe, but maybe they look for Bacchus. If that chain would have connected, Rawski was in a lot of trouble there, but luckily enough, just off the mark with Zenborne. But 4 members of Rival going to group mid and look to bring down this tier 1 tower. Obviously with Neith and Susano, it won't take too long, but Kaajee's rotation on the Cabrakan looking for a stun. Not going to find it, however. Ricochet on the mark yet again from Hatters. Rapio under pressure now from Drizzle, but a good ultimate from him will buy him a moment. The leap is on the mark, knocking up Rapio into danger. Supernova knocks him up though. Good rotation from Headhunter, is going to keep his jungler alive.
Forcing the Sanctuary on her. Zenborne barely able to escape away from Rawski, and with that, it's going to be a wash. Nobody falling. A lot of members are a little low on the side of Rival, so they're going to back, and with that mana pool coming out of exceL, they're going to have to disengage as well, just electing to go for their own red buff. And we saw the way that engagement started in the beginning with Rival utilizing a 4-on-2 advantage by poking out the mid tower, and this is something that Rival just are better at than exceL, grouping up and doing something with their numbers.
And they're very unlucky, exceL. A lot of times I see a lot of people getting very low, but just getting saved by each other. A rival just there to support as many times as possible to try and help each other out. Well, Headhunter going to be focused down by Fudge a little bit here. Has to use the Disapparate, and immediately you see that World Weaver fired off from mid lane from Atonement to allow Rapio to come in and potentially turn this one around. He blinks in and he finds the pickup, and you can just see Fudge is like, nope, I don't want any of that whatsoever. This is just rival being on the same page a little bit more.
And look at this. After the pick, even though there is no buffs to steal, they're still looking. They looked for the boars. They looked immediately for the red because they have the number advantage, and that's just being objective-minded. Even though they could have potentially stayed for that tier 1 left tower, they know that the timing would be a little bit more efficient to try to go for the invades.
Aggression from Atonement there. Full minion wave coming under the tower, but it is a Ho-Yi with a Bacchus, so it won't take too long to clear out that wave at this stage of the game. Rapio is swinging around the back to have a little nosy there as Gnome still trading off with Kaajee. Kaajee going to return to base as Rapio. Going to take a bit of free poke, but illusions away to safety.
And with that, Soul is going to be able to get this tier 1 tower on the left-hand side uncontested because of the fact that the Anhur did fall. They're going to try to be aggressive into the mid lane with a rotation from Kaajee, but going to get pulled under the tower.
That's a very good
rooted.
ball from Kaajee coming out there to allow Fudge to pick up the kill there. Zenborne, obviously with that Ares and the no escape, you're just a sitting duck for most of the time, but Headhunter, well, he's here to hunt now. Stellar Burst comes out, as does the Supernova. Good poke damage onto Fudge, going to force him back and disapparates back to safety. No follow-up from his team there, though, whatsoever, but the damage has been done to exceL here, all very low on health, and with 3 members of Rival here, and Rapio stealing away the speed buff. It's a win for Rival.
Rival just doing a good job distracting exceL to allow the speed buff invade, but Headhunter in a lot of trouble, taking a lot of poke, forced to use the Sanctuary and the Disapparate, saving him away from the ultimate from the Anhur. And with the rotation from Rapio behind, going to get marked, so now he has to be very careful. That mark of the Golden Crow will allow exceL to spot that out.
I love that mark coming out from Hadders there onto Rapio. Just keep track of where he is with those illusions. Is he around the back? What's he up to? Well, what he is up to is getting those left-hand harpies for free now. Rival just finding small wins time and time again in terms of jungle control.
Just slowly but surely now with the Gold Fury respawning, they can easily control the map and wait for somebody to come around the corner and poke them out. And just like that, Fudge going to get poked out, going to have to back, and that's going to be a 1-player advantage for Rival, even though it wasn't a kill.
And only Drizzle can be here to try and defend this one. He tried the Desert Fury last time round. This time, though, Gnome has gone to zone duty to try and keep him busy, and you've got to be respectful of that assassin, or he'll pull you in and force you to jump away, and Gold Fury free for Rival.
Rival picking up that Gold Fury around the 17-minute mark, extends their lead to about 3,500 gold. It's not the same pace as it was the last game, but they're slowly but surely still making a name for themselves with this kind of a lead, making it very difficult for exceL to really find their footing.
Yeah, now they're going to get their own speed buff. As right inside, there's a full minion wave for Gnome to return back to. Level 16 for the solo laner. Actually, 2 members of the team at level 16 with Rapio as well. Across the way, you can see the experience is actually on the god you want it to be an advantage for Rival.
3 levels on the side of Rapio versus only level 14 on the side of Fudge. But it doesn't matter because it's a Thor. Thor can still play from behind pretty well. It is going to be the late game Hu-Yi in the mid position. So having the double hunters could potentially be something that exceL can lean on in the late game. You use your mark onto this Ares and you're going to be doing a lot of damage. Looking at the item build for the Ares, he went hardwood amulet, so not going to have that much physical defense.
Not against 2 hunters, that's for sure. I mean, he does have the bolster defenses, which helps a little bit, I suppose, but at the same time, he's going to be up in amongst the pigeons on the front line a lot of the time, taking a lot of auto attacks for freeze. Headhunter, he didn't spot Fudge then. He didn't spot Fudge then. Headhunter under pressure. Unfortunately, though, Fudge ended up jumping a little bit too far on that hammer. Otherwise, he could have cut off the option of escape.
And meanwhile, on the solo lane, Rapio trying to find the return kill onto Kaajee. The ultimate from Susano was used. About to take a lot of poke with those Dragon Storms, but not going to connect with the Dragon Throw. Water Illusion should get him into execute range, and with that, the pick is good.
The pick is good, and immediately Hadders has to disengage now. He's got support there from Rawski as well, but unfortunately enough, Rapio might feel himself with Gnome, especially with there's a rotation from Zenborne available on that Ares. He was looking at coming over. Instead, he's going to do the moonwalk back towards mid lane and try and stop Fudge from taking this tower.
Fudge barely not able to get that tower. Beautifully done, also just disengaging right before the chains connect with a very short hammer. Sometimes people expect the max distance hammer, but if you do a short to mid-range hammer, just because it's quicker, that could be the difference between escaping or dying.
Fudge done a good job with those double taps so far. Just jumping to the hammer seems to be a bit of an issue, but full minion wave coming in. They're going to tank this one up, and Zenborne's going to lead in to allow his basically 2 hunters there just to bring it down and get an extra 100 gold each in their coffers.
And like you mentioned, because it's a mage in the mid lane doesn't mean it's actually a mage. It's more of a hybrid hunter / slash mage into there. So allowing for easier time for Rival to find these tower sieges. Once you have your heat at max capacity, you're going to start to be shredding. You have more magical power, you have more attack speed.
Well, mid lane, exceL are going to group up and answer back with that tier 1 tower if they can, but they did just lose their speed buff there on the right-hand side to Rapio, who's now swinging mid to stop them taking the tower one more time. At the moment, exceL are just hunting for farm in their own jungle for the most part. There's not much else going on.
And going to be able to poke out Rapio a little bit, forcing him to back. And this is something that exceL needs to exploit. Maybe get this tier 1 tower. It is available. You have a 5-on-4 advantage. But on the solo lane side of things, it looks like Kaajee might be able to get that tower.
Atonement going to get caught out on the rotation. Unfortunately enough, though, hi-rez did not manage to find that ricochet. However, in this guy's Fudge now, and I think they'll recognize it, Rival. exceL going to use this opportunity, though, to get the tier 1 tower in mid lane by the looks of it. As Fudge going to cut off reinforcements coming through, but instead he's a lot of poke from Atonement, has to disengage. No escape from Zenborne, not going to pull in Drizzi, however, who uses a purification. Atonement did pick up Fudge as Rapio around the back picks up hi-rez, and the flop is now down from Rawski. He's going to run for his life now as multiple members of Rival are heading down looking for the pick. Good little impale coming out from Drizzi, though, helping out his support.
2-0 in the favor of Rival. They're going to try to find this advantage with a tier 2 tower. Meanwhile, solo lane is just going to try to bully out Kaajee. Not really going to find anything in return. Being very aggressive is Rapio. Still has the ultimate available to him. Execute range Dragon Storm, not enough to find the kill. The Sanctuary going to buy a little bit of time.
And the Desert Fury, Rapio under a lot of pressure there. Lovely play coming out from Drizzi to keep himself alive and force Rapio back. It did cost him the Sanctuary, but it was definitely worthwhile.
Definitely, because the Sanctuary takes a longer time to refresh compared to the ultimate from Rapio. Just unfortunately was out of position to use his third ability, just shortly out of range. He was backpedaling instead of being aggressive against this Anhur to confirm the kill.
Well, now to the left-hand side, go team Rival. 9-8 is the scoreline. Gold Fury available in roughly a couple of minutes' time. It's not going to be too long till that one respawns again, and Rival need to secure that one for themselves to continue marching forward. They're winning these engagements slowly but surely, and that kind of tells you the tale in the experience in gold graphs.
Around the 17-minute mark last game, Rival were up about 10,000 gold, but this time around, exceL is still doing a better job than last game. They've been improving on. They haven't given up first, but that early in the game compared to last time. So they're still in it to win it currently. This Ares is the one saving grace maybe that exceL can exploit, like we mentioned with the double hunters. That's the only thing really that exceL can snowball off of.
And this is one thing that I think exceL need to do. We mentioned about how many times we've seen opportunities for him to get experience. Hold that fort, left-hand side aggression. Ricochet does come out as well. Fudge taken to the sky on Thor. There was Zenborne looking for the no escape on 2. Going to find it and pull in the Anhur. They didn't expect Anhur to come though, so nobody was there for the follow-up. Fudge dunks in, off the mark a little bit, and that's unfortunate for Rawski as he committed heavily and going to get picked up by one as Rapio goes to the backside, cleans up Drizzi as well, and the tornado's enough to find another potential pick here on Fudge, who's running for his life. Good pulling from Gnome though, is going to secure the potential death of hi-rez here as the army of Rival are going to march down and pick up the kill.
Sanctuary was used, but it was just to buy a little bit of time. Nowhere for hi-rez to really go with his jump being down. So with that, that's going to be 3-0, and yet again, Rival are always able to find these picks and take these objectives. Now, it's a little bit more obvious for Rival to get these objectives with a 3-player advantage, but they've been getting this advantage because of their 1-pick advantage earlier on in the game, slowly and surely finding those little wins, whether they steal away mid-harpies or above potentially. And now, because of that, they're in a good position to get this Phoenix.
And it's all up to Kaajee to try and defend here, but he takes a lot of free poke damage, and already he is dead. The dragon is unleashed from Rapio once more. Now Fudge trying to defend with the help of Rawski, but it's not going to be enough to keep the Phoenix alive. It will fall down for Rival's first Phoenix of Game 2.
Being able to get a Phoenix before grabbing the Fire Giant, especially in the dual lane, makes Rival in a really good position. Now they're up 10,000 gold at the 23-minute mark, and their next objective is more than likely going to be this Gold Fury, then shortly after Fire Giant.
exceL just need to sit down and watch game tape of their games back, because they'll see this themselves. They must see this themselves, of how many times they had opportunities to steal away buffs that were available after they went for gank opportunities or even finding picks. Towers available too. It's Rival that, when they do find them, they just exploit it to its maximum in comparison. Gold Fury, though, being looked at, forced out by the Desert Fury coming out from Drizzi. Now Drizzi with reinforcements. Rapio, though, and Atonement are in a bit of an awkward spot as Fudge dunks in. They didn't expect that. Forced to purify both of them away. And the Gold Fury, well, it does fall down the way of exceL.
And that's a good little advantage. They could potentially group up and look for something out of position by Rival, but with not the Cabrakan not being there, they're being very safe currently with the Anhur finding the farm on the left-hand side. They need to find any sort of farm to get back into the game, and Rival going to play very aggressively around this Fire Giant.
Zenborne way around the corner, going to find the chain onto Bacchus there. As across the map goes Gnome in a happy situation there for himself. 24 minutes into this game at the moment, and you can see that Rival is starting to look around the Fire Giant now. They're not scared to fight multiple members on their own.
No, they're definitely not scared at all. exceL just still trying to find the right angle and opportunity to contest against Rival's aggression, but still being very patient. Zenborne trying to find anybody in the chains, but nobody really in position.
He's not really had an opportunity, especially with no blink as well here for Zenborne. It's made it very difficult for him to close the gap, but he's actually just protecting the backside really more often than not and keeping them very busy. Kaajee, though, with a good ultimate, going to pin them in. No support from his team available, though, as they were swinging around the back towards the Tier 2 tower. That ricochet on the mark again from hi-rez. I've been saying that a lot today. I've only really seen him miss one or two.
Unfortunately, there's no follow-up off of the ricochet stun. That would have been a nice little pick that exceL could exploit. And in this position, with Zenborne being half health, exceL could easily try to be aggressive.
Zenborne got to be careful with his health pool here, only below half at the moment. He's got very tanky though for a level 14. It's just not going to keep him surviving enough from the burst that could come out from exceL. Well, we've fired though, as Fudge being aggressed on by Rapio in the jungle, and Fudge recognizing how much he can get off just in time to get away. But Rapio going to close the gap, not going to find the dragons though to pick up the kill on Fudge. Going to continue chasing with the blink and finds it at the end of the day. Rapio, another kill to his name.
Now it's a 5-on-4 with 2 members, however, from exceL still in the fountain, nowhere to be found, even close to the Fire Giant.
Kaajee goes in trying to steal this one away, but the Titan is still very healthy at the moment. And now Kaajee being focused on by the whole team of Rival, trying to cut off the options at the moment. Zenborne still giving chase, going to find the no escape here, force the Desert Fury. Actually, no, the purification out of him as Kaajee does fall. Dragons in the sky now. Zenborne's going to be careful of those suns as they're still looking for more picks.
Hui does fall in the backhand side, going to get chased by Rapio. Sanctuary buying him a little bit of time, but Gnome finds the jet stream and connecting. Zenborne a little bit low, but still playing very aggressive. Drizzi forced to jump away into the mid lane. Neith arrow does connect, forcing the Sanctuary as there's more follow-up.
The burst from Rapio is insane. He's got Polynomicon as well as the Rodder Tahuti, just allows to burst through that tanky target. That was a Bacchus that he just bursted through, who had a bulwark, and now, well, they don't even need the Fire Giant now totally. They can just head down mid lane, look for this Phoenix.
Very similar to what they did on the left-hand side. They have the advantage. There's a certain window that you're given after you find these picks, and Rival understands it, going for these Phoenixes and objectives, and they find another kill, and that's going to be game.
Double Assassins come to the rescue for Rival here. They did get invaded at the beginning of the game with that Double Assassin comp, but they weren't punished heavily enough and climbed their way back into a comfortable win.
The one play that I'm looking at for exceL in game number 2 specifically was that 4 versus 1 in the mid lane. There were 3 buffs available for them that they didn't exploit afterwards.
And because they didn't exploit that, it just like continued going that way where they'd find wins, but they didn't find wins on the wins, which we always talk about, but it's very, very important at the high level.
And this is why Rival now are going to extend their lead currently to about a 9-3 advantage, and exceL are going to drop to 0-12.
So 0-12 for exceL so far, as you can see. Obviously, we've still got Barrage versus Excellence up today as well. But Rival, they're going to continue maintaining their place at the top for the moment until Barrage do play against Excellence. If Barrage can find the 2-0, they'll overtake the lead once more.
Yes, Barrage did split against Excellence the last time, so there is a little bit of hope. Even though Excellence are 5-5 currently, I still expect to be a really good matchup.
Well, go back to this game again, Rival had a fantastic game, and to be fair, one of the players to definitely talk about is Rapio. Over and over again, this is game 1, and the first kill of the game, to be fair.
It was a very easy attempt by Rapio, finding the Unchained, just doing a lot of damage in the early game, and being able to snowball off of it allowed the rest of him and his team to just go all over the place. Ganking the duo lane early on allowed the aggression from Headhunter to just continue.
Yeah, and Rapio, obviously high level, just allowed to abuse it. And then game 2, well, this was the first gank of the game from him again, and he finds first blood because of it, just combining nicely onto Kaajee, who just didn't know it was coming.
There was a lot of synergy behind that gank also. Being level 4.9, hitting level 5 off like 1 melee minion, the Neith arrow, everything was calculated during that gank from Rival.
Just really, really good play from the whole team of Rival overall. Good communication and awareness of what's going on the map, and response time, which is another thing that we never mentioned this, but response time is part of communication. How quickly do you react to your teammates getting ganked? Can you find the picks elsewhere? Can you support that teammate?
And just like that, Rival are able to find a quick 2-0 against exceL. Going to head into the second set, going to be Barrage versus Excellence.
Barrage versus Excellence. Coming up after the break, guys, stay tuned. We've got more high European action.